Good evening, District Trio, my beloved mentor, past international president Balraj Arunasalam, campaign manager from 2020, guest here today, Pawas Chandra, other guests, and Macon communicators. If you received a phone call today inviting you to speak to an audience of 1,700, what would you say? Raise your hands if you would say yes. I only saw about 2 or 3 hands up in the air. Well, in 2002, that's what happened to me. I received this phone call asking me to speak to an audience of 1,700. I could not even begin to fathom that. I could no more do that than I could sprout wings, grow horns, or leap over tall buildings. It was simply beyond what I could imagine. Several months later, when I ended up at that convention of an association in Las Vegas, Nevada, I sat at the table with my managers of the stores that I owned and watched as the persons whose stores came second to ours went up on the stage and spoke about his store's success. My managers looked up at him, looked at me, and had that questioning in their eyes. And all I could do was look down at the stain on the tablecloth. I had let my team down. I was unable to share their success. To that point in time, when I had turned down opportunities to speak, it was myself or my family that I had let down. But that day, I let down people who had given so much to my business success. I was so disappointed in myself. Several days later, at the end of the convention, we all sat in waiting for the keynote speaker to speak. And when he began speaking, I felt like he was just talking to me, sharing all those things that you could only grow from the spot that you were currently in. And his message meant so much to me. When all of a sudden, one of the clappers that they had given us at the convention so our hands wouldn't get sore went flying over my shoulder on the floor in front of me. I bent down to pick up that clapper, and as I did, I could look down the row of people. And what I noticed was that each and every person was so engaged on the speaker, just as I was. Immediately, I got goosebumps all the way up my arm. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to communicate like that? Now, how many of you have had goosebumps for an exciting, joyful moment? Raise your hands. Yes, yes. Well, that moment is called cutis and serena. That's what scientists call it. And while they completely understand why we get goosebumps when we're fearful or when we're cold, they haven't explored adequately when we get it in joyful moments. I think it's something inside of us that brings meaning, that brings something that is so wonderful. And goosebumps are a sign of that, letting us know. We have this part of our brain that's emotional and this part of our brain that's intellectual or cognitive. And those goosebumps speak to us from our emotional side and unveils to us something that's an inner calling. But of course, as that emotional side, that side that comes from us that we don't even really understand, then of course the voice came up saying to me, but you're not a famous football star. Oh yeah, that's right. But you're not a male. Oh yeah, that's right. But you're not American, Margaret. Oh, that's right. All of a sudden, that moment of thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to communicate like that? All of a sudden, that dream, that idea, that picture was stretched so out of proportion that I could no longer see the picture. Have you had that happen? Where you saw something so beautiful that you wanted to be like, but then there was those voices that you were too young, too old, too fat, too whatever it was, that those automatic negative thoughts came up and said, you cannot do that. Well, that is a moment of a rule of goosebumps that I believe, and we need to still that voice. You need to still that voice and instead find that way forward. First of all, to be aware of that goosebump moment and ask yourself, what is it about that moment? Now, I didn't get goosebumps when the speaker came on the stage. So it wasn't just about speaking in front of an audience. It was when I understood that each person in that room was so connected to the message that we felt like it was just him and us individually. It was about having a message that's so profound, that speaks to everyone. And it's about having a message that people want to listen to and people want to hear. And of course, at Toastmasters is where you develop those skills. No matter what that dream is and how out of proportion that dream has been stretched, at Toastmasters, you can develop the skills to step forward, to close that gap from where you were to where you want to be. So the first rule of Goosebumps is to be aware of that thing that brings your life greater meaning. And the second step is to understand why that's so important to you. And for me, in that moment, I realized that my parents were divorced and I was divorced. And if we could communicate at that level where our message was so important and that people really wanted to hear it, then perhaps all those challenges and difficult times would have been easier and more effective. I'm glad I found Toastmasters to help me become a better communicator. And the third step for the rule of goosebumps is to take baby steps, one step at a time, and understand to get where you want to go, you have to move forward one step at a time. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we look through our prisms of possibilities and understand those things that bring us goosebumps and greater meaning to our life, I'd invite you to be aware of those moments and not just let them go by, but actually reflect and think about them and your why of why that brings meaning to your life or why that gave you goosebumps, and then be willing to take those tiny steps towards those goals. In the words of John Powell, who says, communication works for those that work at it, I say, what better place to work at it than right here at Toastmasters? Back to you, Nagaraja.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Margaret. So now the floor is open for Q&A for 10 minutes. I invite the members of the audience. You may kindly ask questions.
If I may, sir.
Please go ahead.
Hello, Madam Toastmaster and our beloved president. Firstly, I think that talk was something that I really needed to hear in this phase of my life. So thank you so much for that beautiful talk. Goosebumps for sure. I'd like to ask you one question. You are and you have been a great entrepreneur. If I really have to ask, what is that one great tool an entrepreneur should practice and work on? What would that be?
Well, of course, you need to understand financial statements if you're the business owner. But I would have to say, I've been a business owner for a number of years, and business has shifted and changed over the number of years. And nowadays, we need to put more emphasis on employees and taking care of your staff. It's critical. We've gone through a period of time where staff was unengaged. They don't feel valued and appreciated. And if I could say that one of the huge things that I have learned from Toastmasters, or the many benefits, was about putting people first all the time. Toastmasters is a people optimizing organization. And in the business world, it was easy to fire and hire, but for a not-for-profit organization, you cannot fire anyone. And so you have to learn how to work with people, how to build them up. And that has helped me immensely in my entrepreneurial world. So it's take care of your people. If you're an entrepreneur, take care of your people. Your people will develop your business, and they're the key to your success. Thanks for that question.
Can I ask questions?
Yes, please go ahead.
Margaret Page, to become a better speaker, combination of logic and emotion is very much required. In any given topic, how this combination has to be brought in?
In any given topic, how do you bring in the emotion and how do you bring in the logic? Is that the question? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, you have to tap into your own life and the stories that mean something to you, and then you can tap into the emotional side. Of course, as leaders, we also need to take that period of time to reflect. And I think that was a piece that was missing in the Toastmaster program for a while, is when you came to the end of it, is, did you take the time to reflect and understand the learning in this? And so that's what we need to do, is share the emotion from our own personal life of what were those goosebump moments, but also the pains and the challenges. And then we'll hit on those emotions and then the logic of how we made sense of that, because essentially, isn't that the hero's journey? Is those pieces in life where we resisted going and then stepped into that adventure and all the challenges along the way, and then looking into the inner soul of what that meant to us, and then coming back and sharing that with the tribe or with those around us. So that's critical, is hitting both the emotional and the logical in any kind of speech or connecting with that audience. Thanks for that question.
Thank you.
Hi.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Madam Toastmaster, all of us do have dreams of different kinds. Some are small, some are big, some are way too huge. It is definitely perfectly fine to dream. However, we may also be practically aware of our own limitations. So, what is it that one thing you would like to say on how to bridge the gap between our present self and the dream we really want to achieve? Because, in my opinion, if a person is capable of dreaming something, it means he or she is capable of getting there. So what is your opinion about that? Can you please share an insight?
Yes, unless you have physical limitations, you are capable of achieving anything that anyone else has in the past. It's just a matter of time. You know, do you have the time to dedicate to it? But I firmly believe we are all capable, and we have the same amount of hours as Mother Teresa, as Eleanor Roosevelt, as so many leaders that came before us. We have exactly the same amount of hours each day. And it's how we choose to spend those hours that is the most important thing. If you choose to spend those hours on social media, or you choose to spend those hours watching TV, well, ultimately that's the result you're going to get. But if you spend your time in working towards your goal and spending times such as going to Toastmasters meeting, where you're constantly developing your skills in multiple levels of learning, then you will get closer to your goal. But I firmly believe the prism of possibility for each of us, if anyone else has done it, we're capable of doing it. And of course, because you're a Toastmaster, you're expected to even stretch further than that and go beyond what others have taught you or gone before. I learned that from my mentor that is here today. One of the first things that past International President Balraj Aruna Asalam said to me was, he said, "We are going to help you be the best president that Toastmasters International has ever had." And that was about pushing me further than anyone had gone before. And so I think mentors play a key role too. And we're so very fortunate in Toastmasters that we have mentors, or you have the opportunity to have a mentor, to reach out to those that you believe can help you get to where you want to go. And it's our responsibility as mentors to push people further than we have gone before. And we owe that to those that came before us, to leave the organization in better shape than we found it, and to push people beyond what they think they can achieve. I think your theme this evening is so appropriate, but I did want to clarify something that a gentleman earlier had called me the president. I am not yet the president. I am president-elect, so it's not until August of 2021 that I'll become president. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Madam Toastmaster, so this is Ranjit here. My question to you is, I am a part of an initiative in my organization which will promote women in leadership. And I also noticed you also one of the key champion in bringing women in politics. So I would like to know what would be the 3 important point I should focus to bring women in leadership in the corporate world.
Certainly. Thank you. That's a fabulous question. And I receive more outside of North America than inside from men. So I congratulate you on even considering it and thinking about it. It's so important. Well, a lot of research has been done about women in leadership, and particularly I was involved in research around women in the political arena. And what we discovered was that men would wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to run for council person or for MLA, that's for a province in my country, or for premier. They would wake up in the morning and simply feel that they wanted to make a difference in that way. Whereas women wanted to hear from other individuals that they would be good at that role before they were willing to step into that position. And so I think it's really important if you're building women in leadership roles in your organization to have greater diversity and to be more expressive of the culture that's working there, is to support those women in their model. And that is to acknowledge what's good about them, what you see the strengths in them. And I guess we could say that piece that world champion has brought to us, Dana Jaya, is I see something in you. So that would be the first step, is to see something in them, which, by the way, speaks to their identity. When we go around asking people to do a job, that's a task. But when we say to them, I see something in you, and you need to be specific and you need to be authentic about what it is you see in them, it helps them with their identity. And there's nothing stronger, a stronger force than a person's identity. And when we see that, we can help them grow and develop. So the first step would be to see that leadership in women, their uniqueness. And then when they're sitting at the table, is to acknowledge their comments. When you have invited them into the room, invited them into the board table, is to acknowledge their contributions and to support their contributions. That's the way women like to grow. And then afterwards is continue to acknowledge what they have accomplished and what they have done, and provide additional opportunities for them. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.